Hi everyone, today we got another dip to that level, 680.04, tagged that level and then bounced aggressively, so tagged the low from yesterday and then made a slightly higher high here overall, looking fairly bullish, continuing to look for this upward trend, but let's take a look at all of the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. Moving over to news, we got stocks. We got Microsoft stocks sinking on a report that AI product sales are missing growth goals, so AI not delivering. This is kind of the worry, right? We're priced for a ton of growth, a ton of streamlining based on AI development, and now those are starting to miss potentially. Microsoft is still up just a little bit after hours, but they were slipping during the session for sure. You can see slid 2% on the news. There was also news about them potentially shutting down an airport because Microsoft Office or Windows was struggling. So that was potentially also weighing on the stock, but this is definitely not what we want to see, and this could absolutely propagate to some of these other AI agents. If they are not delivering on these goals, these expectations from markets, then we could absolutely see this kind of waterfall of AI slowing down. Companies like OpenAI, Google, Salesforce, Amazon, they all have these AI assistants. And if people are not buying them, or if they are not generating the revenue previously expected, then we are definitely going to have some issues in markets. Moving over to fear and greed, we did step up to a 26, back into regular fear by one tick there, just barely making it out. Momentum neutralized here right at these kind of consolidation highs after the initial dip. Strength still in extreme fear. Breadth, no movement there. It has been improving, but still extreme fear on the metric. Put call ratios kind of in this mid-range now. It'll be interesting to see if it holds up as a higher low here or kind of double bottom from this kind of mid-November area. Volatility still hovering at that kind of 16 area. Still interesting that it's not breaking below that. And then safe haven demand, no movement, still extreme fear. Junk bonds did spike up yesterday, and that did hold. We've seen it where it kind of spikes down and spikes back up, and right now this is a little bit higher, kind of signaling an increase in fear. Moving over to the economic calendar, we didn't get a whole lot for today. Imports, exports struggled a little bit, came down. Composite PMI, also services PMI, a little bit lower than expectations. Nothing crazy there. Non-manufacturing PMI also went up. And then for tomorrow, initial jobless claims, continuing jobless claims. Atlanta Fed GDP, not a whole lot. And then PCE for Friday is the big one. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps here, you can see that dip early, rally up, still holding that 55 EMA. It's testing it a little bit more aggressively, but it did hold. And then you can see the level here, that 680 zone. Tagged that multiple times and bounced, looking for the trend structure in here around 687, which would take you very close to the all-time high here back from the end of October time period. Still kind of looks like a breakdown kind of retest of this structure, but we're through here. So again, still bullish, momentum bullish, RSI still bullish. Looking for a little bit more upside tomorrow likely. The close looks good. This dip in the middle of the session had me a little bit more hesitant, and you can see the sell at the end of the session had a lot of volume on it, which is also concerning. If it's going to hesitate at this previous high from middle of November time period, it needs to do it here. Otherwise, still looks bullish pretty much across the board. Moving over to the SPY charts here on the Tasty charts, you can see the 8 EMA continues to be a zone of support. We came into that area and tested it, found support. Trailing stop still down here, 687.36, continues to kind of grind up here. Not a ton of conviction, and you can see volume weighted MACD definitely bearish, especially on that end of the session selling that we saw on the previous charts. And then looking at that hourly chart, interesting here, surprisingly, we dipped below that trailing stop here, 681.07. So you're now in bearish condition. 685.89 is that trailing stop. Again, the volume spike was that bearish candle at the end of the session, so it'll be interesting to see if we do get any follow through tomorrow. I think this could certainly go either way. And of course, the daily chart is still very much bearish. Moving over to the Russell closed right on the highs from that pre-market prior to the dip, pre-market from yesterday as well, and you can see we're pushing towards that 624.90 level. If we can get above that and close, that is going to be super bullish, but we are definitely hesitating multiple times now in this zone. We talked about it yesterday. My level might be just a little bit off. You can see my alert here, 623.28 seems like a more important zone. We've tagged this multiple times and sold off 623.60-ish area. Momentum still a little bit bearish on the short term, still a little bit bullish on the medium term, looking to see if we can get above there or not. Either way, still looks short-term bullish. Just need to see that powerful push through that 624.90 level. Moving over to the NASDAQ, even the move on the NASDAQ here on the Tasty charts did put it into bearish conditions, even on the hourly chart here. So 626.72 is now that trailing stop. We dipped below the trailing stop here, 621. Hit that 89 EMA and bounced, or in the middle of the range here. Didn't see that same kind of volume spike, interestingly, on the NASDAQ as we saw on the SPY charts, so that's interesting. And then holding here at that 8 EMA, either way, continuing to kind of hold on this very slow uptrend. Momentum on the volume weighted MACD still a little bit bearish. 4 hour still in good shape. If this rolls tomorrow, I think that's going to be a little bit more concerning, but for now it still looks slightly bullish, minus the dip on that hourly chart. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, look at the Russell up 1.82%. That jobs report that we got today was definitely not great, but definitely signaled to markets that we're probably going to get that December cut, which is probably good here for the Russell. Maybe that's why we're seeing such strong movement there. Interesting to see the SPY chart hesitating. NASDAQ was strong, but the Russell is still strong here to that trend. Interesting. Said as long as this level held 244, then we were going to be bullish to that next trend. And so far that has been good. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. If it breaks out from here, that's going to be very, very strong. So something to watch for. What a move, honestly, overall. You can see we're back to these highs, dipped all the way down to 229 and right back here now to that 250 area. And then the Dow, same thesis, right? We were in this trend structure, tried to get above it, tested it 2 times after dipping below, and now we got a strong continuation right towards those all-time highs. If we get the continuation, that trend structure could take you all the way up to kind of 495 area. Moving over to the Mag 7. Mag 7 was basically unchanged on the day considering how bearish Microsoft was. That's kind of surprising. We'll take a look at them, of course, as we go here, but overall basically unchanged. Still looks like a kind of dipping right shoulder from this left shoulder head, right shoulder pattern. It is hanging in here. It's right at the 55 now, 368.21. We closed at 368.69, so just barely above it, but right in this region. Momentum is still slightly bullish, but the RSI, the trend on that is starting to fade just a little bit. Maybe we pull back. If we hold the 21 EMA in here around 362, that would be super bullish. And then we'll see what happens after that. I really like those style of trades. Similar to what we had here, breakdown, 21 EMA, retest, closed below it, and then got that continuation sell. If we come in here, hold the 21 and push, that would be a nice trade. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple did go a little bit higher, new all-time high wicks, but we did close lower. It's definitely extended in the short term. Wouldn't surprise me to see this pull back just a little bit and then push. Continues to look super bullish, of course. Super overbought, like I said. And then looking at Microsoft here, sold 2.5%, probably headed back down to that 200 level. We said this looked like a pretty clean downtrend. Retested VWAP, retested the 21 EMA, and probably going to continue to sell. In terms of levels, if this 466.57 level breaks, the next one is 453.30, but that will also be a break of the 200, and then you would expect this to go quite a bit. Don't forget that there are big gaps left here from the 30th of April into the 1st of May. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Look at this move on Tesla. Absolutely massive. Trump came out and said he was lifting things relative to the EPA requirements for the automotive industry. And whatever happened, I guess, was super bullish. Put it down in the comments what happened. But you can see Tesla massive here, up 4%, headed towards 450. If it gets above that, it's going to be super bullish. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Came into the zone of support, broke above this level, continues to look strong. I would expect it to break through there. And then look at NVIDIA, continues to look relatively awful. NVIDIA has been very strong for a long time. Now we've got kind of a retest of this 55 EMA area, retest of the 21 EMA area. And now it looks like we're going to continue to sell back towards that 144, closer to 170. Moving over to Breadth, we got Breadth not moving a whole lot here today. Still in this kind of zone, continues to hold in this area, still holding zones of support. 20-day is pretty much right on it, 68.14, just below it there. And the momentum is stepping down, but RSI still bullish. And then 50-day right on the zone of support, 50.82, touched that area and then bounced. Again, this still looks relatively bullish for me. And this is probably the biggest indicator of more bullishness to come. Moving over to the dollar. With that weak jobs report, of course, that's going to be bad for the dollar, and we got a big sell there, down about 0.5% through that 55 EMA. Was really hoping that zone was going to hold. Now, if this area here at 98.59 does not hold. That is going to be terrible. But this looks like a topping pattern and a sell now. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Moving over to JNK and TLT. JNK is still rallying here just a little bit, bouncing off the RSI. SMA, the MACD is still kind of flat, nothing crazy. Still expect this to be bullish, but it needs to get above the 55 EMA on a closing basis, which it has not yet today. And then looking at TLT bouncing off of that 200. If you want to trade it, you can. Needs to get above 89.16 as the next resistance, and then you got some dynamic resistances above there. But for now, your support is that 200, and it looks slightly bullish from that level. Moving over to volatility, this continues to sell here, but it is right at this low level. Momentum still bearish, RSI still kind of hovering, but this is an interesting zone where it could bounce. Again, we talked about it yesterday. This could just consolidate for a little while in this area. It's kind of hard on the timing. Could be days, could be weeks. Hard to say, but it is in that zone of support already. Moving over to my accounts, I made money on the session. I was long the Qs, held through that dip, and then closed kind of mid-session. So I ended up making about $200 on that trade. I didn't take the max profit because I couldn't watch it into the close and I didn't want to. So I took it off. Would have been a fine trade, would have made a little bit more there, but I'm also hesitant just below that zone of resistance that we saw on the charts. And then this dollar position, of course, got much worse today. Need the dollar to hold if it's going to do it. Otherwise, it looks like it's going to sell a little bit more aggressively here over the next couple days. So right now, kind of neutral for markets for me, which is why I'm not in them, and we'll see what we get in tomorrow's session. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of Microsoft. Are they going to have more issues with their AI agent? Are they going to have more issues with Microsoft Office? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.